Something has quietly shifted at the top of the luxury pyramid. The kind of spending once reserved for the ultra-wealthy is changing shape. Still luxurious, still pricey, but no longer as obvious, as loud, or as status-hungry as it used to be. And here's the kicker. While the rich are still shopping, they're increasingly walking away from many of the brands that middle-class buyers continue to fawn over. That means those brands that once stood for "I've made it" are now increasingly seen as "I want to make it" in the wrong circles. So what happened? Why did the ultra-rich start steering clear of these once hot luxury logos? Is it about bad taste, mass exposure, or something more subtle? The shift from flashy to quiet, from logo loud to logo less, from show-off status to low-key statement. Or do they know something the middle class don't? Over the next few minutes, we'll break down 15 luxury brands that went from elite status symbols to mass-market fallbacks. By the time we hit number 1, you'll see why the ultra-wealthy are moving on, and what that means for your luxury choices. Let's start the countdown with number 15, Burberry. For decades, Burberry's iconic checkered trench and London heritage branding made it a go-to for upper-mid luxury wardrobes. But lately, the very audience once clamoring for its outerwear has quietly started slipping away. Recent reports show its brand value plunged by about 42% in a single year, with analysts pointing to a combination of weak demand among high-income shoppers and a brand identity that sits uncomfortably between aspirational and elite. What's going on? First, affluent buyers are looking for rarer, quieter logos or no logos at all, and Burberry's signature check is now viewed by some as too safe, too visible, too predictable. Second, its exposure to aspirational middle-class shoppers and heavy reliance on wholesale and outlet channels means the brand has diluted some luxury prestige. When the top-tier customer begins to associate your brand with the fallback tier, you're in trouble. In key markets like China and the US, high-end spending by wealthy consumers has slumped, and Burberry's own figures bear this out. Store sales in the Americas and Asia Pacific dropped significantly as elite buyers tightened up. In short, Burberry is in the once elite, increasingly aspirational zone, and that's exactly where rich people stop being interested. So, for those chasing status via belt loops, the label's not quite serving the desired signal anymore. But while Burberry got caught in the trap of overexposure, Gucci took it a step further, turning bold statements into a whole new kind of problem. Number 14, Gucci. Once the crown jewel of aspirational luxury, Gucci's signature double G monogram and flamboyant styles dominated red carpets, luxury malls, and Instagram feeds alike. But in recent years, the brand has quietly slipped into a surprisingly common category, the rich people are over it zone. Sales at Gucci nosedived dramatically, a 23% drop in revenue for 2024 compared to the previous year. The reasons are layered, but one stands out. The very people societies once assumed would cling to Gucci are walking away. The uber-wealthy, who once flaunted monograms as status signals, are increasingly rejecting them. Gucci's problem isn't just that middle-class buyers are cooling off. It's that the elite, who used to fuel the brand's shine, no longer view it as exclusive. Part of this shift stems from a creative identity crisis. Frequent changes at the top, a shifting aesthetic, and a move toward volume and trend chasing diluted the brand's appeal among serious collectors. What was once bold and distinctive became predictable, and in luxury, predictability kills desirability. Meanwhile, wealthier customers are migrating toward brands that whisper instead of shout. Understated logos, minimalistic designs, craftsmanship you feel rather than labels you flash. Gucci's louder legacy now reads more like status ambition than status achieved. In short, Gucci used to be the trophy you bought after you'd made it. Now, wealth holders who've already made it are leaving it behind. And for a brand built on hype, that's a dangerous place to be. But Gucci's not the only one chasing trends only to find them slipping away. The next brand on our list took its own stumbles with oversaturation, trying to be everything to everyone, only to alienate its once loyal base. Number 13, Tommy Hilfiger. Once the epitome of preppy American luxury, Tommy Hilfiger had its heyday in the 90s and early 2000s, boasting massive appeal among the cool kids and A-list celebrities. From its iconic flag logo to the oversized polos, it was the brand that defined the look of casual chic in high school and college classrooms across America. But somewhere along the way, Tommy lost the plot. It started as a luxury alternative, but then it found itself leaning into mass market appeal, producing at a level that made it available everywhere. The result? The brand went from aspirational to ubiquitous, and not in the good way. Tommy Hilfiger's brand identity became watered down. It was no longer a rare find. It was a name found in every department store, every outlet mall, and worse, on every clearance rack. High net worth individuals started distancing themselves from the brand as it became associated with middle market retail. You see, Tommy Hilfiger fell into the same trap that many aspirational brands do. It relied too much on mass market distribution and not enough on maintaining exclusivity. The logo became too recognizable, too available, and before long, it lost the luxury aura that had once made it stand out. So, while middle-class shoppers continue to snatch up its polos and sweaters, the ultra-wealthy have long since moved on to brands that offer the exclusivity and understated luxury they crave. Tommy Hilfiger's appeal is no longer rooted in its aspirational image. It's now more about fast fashion than high fashion. As Tommy Hilfiger chases nostalgia, another brand on this list got lost in the noise of trying to stay trendy while forgetting its roots. At number 12, we're diving into a name that was once at the top of the luxury food chain, but is now seeing fewer high net worth buyers and a growing middle class following. Number 12, Coach. Coach used to be synonymous with upscale American craftsmanship, but over the years, the brand has found itself stuck in a tough spot. Once, it was the go-to label for those seeking affordable luxury in handbags and accessories. Coach offered high quality without the sky-high prices of the true luxury houses. However, that balance has changed. The bags that were once considered entry-level luxury are now viewed as budget luxury by many of the richest consumers. As Coach expanded its reach to larger retail chains and embraced more affordable price points, the brand's cachet began to erode. High net worth individuals who once saw Coach as an attainable luxury option now associate it with department store malls and outlet sales. While Coach has made efforts to rebrand itself with new designs, higher-end collaborations, and more polished marketing, the damage is done. Wealthy buyers don't want to see Coach bags everywhere, and that's exactly what's happening. The brand's massive presence in discount outlets and on sale websites has made it accessible, but not in the way luxury should be. The result is that Coach is being increasingly bought by middle-class shoppers looking for a taste of luxury without the price tag. For the ultra-wealthy, Coach no longer speaks to exclusivity or sophistication. It's simply another mainstream brand. As Coach struggles to maintain its entry-level luxury status, our next brand faces a similar problem. While it once embodied American fashion at its finest, it has now become increasingly disconnected from the tastes of the ultra-wealthy. Let's talk about number 11. Number 11, Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren, once a beacon of American luxury and classic elegance, has slowly become more associated with preppy mall wear than high-end fashion. The Polo Ralph Lauren brand was revered for its timeless appeal. Its polo shirts, tailored blazers, and Ivy League style defined a generation. But as fashion trends evolved and exclusivity became more of a priority for wealthy consumers, Ralph Lauren struggled to keep up. The brand was, at one time, the epitome of understated luxury for those who wanted a classic look without the overt flash of designer logos. But in the last decade, Ralph Lauren made a misstep by trying to appeal to the mass market, moving further into department stores, discount outlets, and even launching more affordable lines. This shift diluted its brand identity and made it less attractive to the high net worth individuals who once swore by it. While Ralph Lauren still commands respect for its quality, craftsmanship, and iconic pieces, the ultra-wealthy have started gravitating toward brands that offer a more refined, understated kind of luxury. Brands that have less association with the masses. Ralph Lauren, with its recognizable polo shirts and preppy aesthetic, no longer holds the same aura of exclusivity. Instead, it has become more synonymous with middle-market luxury, a look that some people still aspire to, but others have left behind. Today, the brand remains popular with a loyal customer base, But for the rich, Ralph Lauren's appeal has shifted away from high society and toward a more accessible middle-class demographic. As Ralph Lauren's appeal shifts to a more accessible middle-market base, the next brand on our list has found itself slipping into a similar trap, one of misalignment with high net worth tastes and an overabundance of everyday luxury. Let's dive into number 10. Number 10, Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein, a brand that once epitomized sleek American luxury, now finds itself more closely associated with casual wear than high fashion exclusivity. In the 80s and 90s, Calvin Klein was a force to be reckoned with, synonymous with minimalism, elegance, and edgy advertising campaigns. The iconic CK logo was everywhere, from underwear to perfumes, and the brand became a symbol of cool, effortless luxury. But over time, the shift toward mass production and distribution began to erode its allure. Calvin Klein became widely available in department stores and outlets, making it more accessible and, in the eyes of wealthy buyers, less desirable. The brand's push into more affordable lines and frequent collaborations diluted its exclusivity. In fact, what was once considered cutting-edge minimalism became bogged down in budget-friendly apparel, especially as the brand expanded its focus beyond high-end fashion. While Calvin Klein still maintains a certain level of recognition, it's no longer viewed as a high-status luxury brand. The ultra-wealthy, who once associated CK with a modern, clean aesthetic, have shifted their focus toward other, more refined options like Prada and niche designers who maintain an air of exclusivity. Calvin Klein's shift toward being more of a wearable luxury has caused it to lose much of the elite appeal it once had. Now, the brand remains a go-to for casual, everyday luxury, but its high fashion credibility is in decline. For the wealthy, Calvin Klein no longer commands the same aura of sophistication. It's just another accessible option in a world of increasingly selective luxury. Just as Calvin Klein lost its high-end sheen by becoming too accessible, the next brand on our list made the same mistake, and the rich abandoned it fast. Let's move to number 9. Number 9, Michael Kors. Michael Kors once held a prime spot in the accessible luxury category, a label that let you taste designer prestige without stepping fully into ultra-exclusive territory. But now, that once smart position has backfired, and the very wealthy are looking elsewhere. In the early 2010s, Michael Kors exploded into global fashion consciousness. That sleek American aesthetic, the signature MK logo, the handbags spotted on red carpets. It all meant, I've arrived. But over time, the strategy shifted. The brand flooded the market. From handbags to high street collaborations, Michael Kors became ubiquitous. And that ubiquity destroyed the very thing luxury thrives on: exclusivity. For wealthy buyers, the logic is simple. If everyone can buy it, then owning it doesn't mean you're part of the elite anymore. That tweak in perception is what pushed Michael Kors off the luxury peak. The brand still sells to millions, but not to the ones whose buying signals say silent wealth, not look at me wealth. Additionally, Michael Kors's dual strategy, balancing high-end label lines with mass-market diffusion products, diluted its luxury credentials. It became comfortable being everywhere, and in doing so, it left behind the rare and reserved space that elite buyers prize. So, while middle-class shoppers continue to buy Michael Kors for solid style at a good price, the ultra-wealthy don't. They're moving on to brands that still require a little mystery, a little effort, and a little waiting. Michael Kors, it became too easy, too loud, too mainstream. Michael Kors may have become the everyone's bag brand, flooding the market until it lost its luxury shine. Now, let's turn to the next brand on our list, one that tried to blend high fashion with high numbers, but wound up losing the elite long before the outlets did. Number 8, Kate Spade. Once the darling of playful luxury for the upwardly mobile, think bright colors, whimsical prints, and handbags that said, "I've made it, but I'm still having fun." Kate Spade was everywhere in the early 2010s. Celebrities carried the bags, college grads aspired to them, and the brand seemed to strike a perfect balance between accessible and aspirational. But somewhere along the way, Kate Spade crossed the line from aspirational to ubiquitous. And in luxury, that's a dangerous place to land. The wealthy don't buy what everyone carries. They buy what others don't. And that's the crux. Kate Spade's mass appeal eventually made it unappealing to people who buy luxury for status, not fun. The brand embraced rapid fashion tactics, bright seasonal prints, frequent collaborations, wide availability in outlet stores, and heavy discounting. While middle-class shoppers embraced this model as a savvy way to carry a designer name, ultra-high net worth buyers quietly moved on. For them, the playful logo and cheerful hardware didn't scream exclusivity. They screamed, "Look at me trying." In short, Kate Spade became the luxury brand you buy before you've arrived, not the one you carry after. By chasing volume, it sacrificed the mystique that actually makes luxury meaningful. The rich stopped caring. The middle class kept buying. And that shift alone is enough to push a brand out of the elite circle. Just as Kate Spade's cheerful flair lost its luxury edge in the face of mass appeal, the brand at number 7 allowed its roots to blur, losing the elite crowd while the mainstream cheered. Let's move into brand number 7. Number 7. Diesel. Once the rebel of premium denim and cool luxury, Diesel was the label you wore when status meant attitude, not just price. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Diesel's edgy campaigns and premium pricing made it a marker of one step ahead cool for the affluent. Its successful living message captured that rebellious luxury vibe perfectly. Fast forward, and things changed. Diesel's positioning shifted from niche and aspiration to broader accessibility. Critics now describe it not as a luxury brand, but a premium brand. A subtle but important downgrade. The wealthy began to drift away. Why pay luxury prices for denim when the brand was available everywhere and its premium status increasingly questioned? Diesel's attempts at reinvention haven't fully convinced the high net worth crowd. The brand filed for Chapter 11 protection in the US in 2019, a clear break from brands typically associated with enduring luxury. Even though Diesel is making inroads again with younger collectors and trending styles, that resurgence is more street-style momentum than high society validation. For the ultra-rich, luxury is invisible, refined, and exclusive. Diesel's visibility, mass availability, and premium, rather than elite positioning, mean it no longer signals that quiet achievement status. Middle-class shoppers? They still buy Diesel for the look and the name, but the crowd that buys luxury because everyone else can't has mostly moved on. Diesel might have tried to rebrand, but it's clear the formula didn't quite work. The next brand on the list took a similar gamble with its mass market strategy, and unfortunately, it lost its grip on the luxury segment. Let's move to number 6. Number 6. Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss was once synonymous with clean lines, sharp tailoring, and understated elegance. It was the go-to brand for powerful business people who wanted to look both stylish and sophisticated. But over the years, it slowly made a shift from being a brand of choice for high net worth individuals to something more middle market. The turning point came when Hugo Boss pushed more and more into casual wear and diffusion lines, expanding its offerings to appeal to a wider audience. What was once a luxury brand became easily accessible to a much larger crowd, particularly in department stores and outlets. The appeal of owning a Boss suit faded when you could buy it at half price in outlet malls or on sale online. For the ultra-wealthy, luxury is about rarity and exclusivity. Hugo Boss's shift into mass-market retail diluted its high-status appeal. At one point, it had a moment as a brand that represented modern luxury, but as it became more accessible, that image faded, and the wealthy moved on to more refined options that signaled true exclusivity, like Tom Ford or Brunello Cucinelli. Today, Hugo Boss is still a solid choice for men's suiting and casual wear, but its place in the luxury world has all but number 7. It's no longer the brand the rich go to when they want to signal high society status. Instead, it's become just another fashion brand vying for attention in an overcrowded market. Hugo Boss might have slipped from boardroom staple to outlet regular, but the brand at number 5 made a different kind of descent. From fashion-forward luxury darling to aspirational pick for the many, not the few. Let's dive into brand number 5. Number 5. Prada. There was a time when Prada stood at the intersection of intellect and luxury. Its Saffiano leather bags, clean lines, and cerebral aesthetic meant, I'm sophisticated, not showy. It was the trophy for someone who'd already arrived, the kind of bag you carried when status wasn't about the label so much as the absence of it. But over the years, Prada shifted. In its attempt to widen appeal and stay relevant, it leaned into trend-driven collections, streetwear collaborations, and more accessible price points. That expansion made the brand more visible and more abundant. When wealthy buyers open their closets and see the same bag being carried by everyone from overseas tourists to Fashion Week attendees, the magic fades. As one analyst put it, when luxury becomes easy, it stops impressing. While Prada still delivers quality, what it doesn't deliver as much is scarcity. The ultra-rich are increasingly seeking brands where you still need to wait, where distribution is limited, where logos are subtle or absent. Prada's broad accessibility means it's now more prevalent in the aspirational class than among those at the peak. That's not to say Prada has lost all prestige. It hasn't. But in the shifting hierarchy of luxury, it's no longer the brand you buy when you're done. Instead, it's the brand you buy when you're trying to get there. And for the highest net worth individuals who don't want to get there because they're already there, that subtle difference matters. After seeing how a powerhouse like Prada drifted into aspirational territory, our next brand demonstrates a similar fall from unreachable to everyday. Let's move on to brand number 4. Number 4. Giorgio Armani. There was a time when Giorgio Armani represented pinnacle refinement, the go-to for powerful figures, red carpet elegance, and luxury that whispered instead of shouted. Tailored suits, clean lines, understated. Glamour, that was Armani's signature. But recently, the ultra-wealthy have been quietly stepping away. What changed? First, Armani expanded aggressively. The brand moved into more lifestyle categories, more casual wear, more diffusion lines, making luxury more accessible, and in doing so, less exclusive. Once the domain of the elite, Armani began to populate airport boutiques, mid-range department stores, and outlet malls. What used to signal, I've arrived, now began to signal, I'm trying. Second, the luxury landscape shifted. High net worth buyers began valuing rarity, craftsmanship, and discretion more than the old hallmarks of brand familiarity. With Armani's broad visibility, those buyers started seeing it as safe, familiar, even predictable. And in a world where luxury is partly defined by what not everyone sees, predictability is fatal. Third, newer luxury houses and emerging designers captured the imagination of wealthy shoppers looking for understated prestige. Armani's classic aesthetic, once ahead of its time, now looked slightly conservative, and conspicuous consumers began chasing the next avant-garde label rather than the reliable standby. So while Armani remains a respected name, the rich are looking elsewhere for their trophy pieces. In the hierarchy of luxury, Armani has slid into the accessible luxury zone, which means the very people luxury counts on most are moving on. Giorgio Armani may have once been synonymous with high society, but in the race to stay relevant, it found itself trailing behind newer brands that offered the elite something fresher. Now let's look at brand number 3, a name that made bold moves to remain cool, only to lose its crown in the process. It went from next-level luxury to a symbol of a past era. Let's dive in. Number 3, Louis Vuitton. If there's one brand that once embodied the apex of luxury, it was Louis Vuitton. Known for its impeccable craftsmanship, iconic monogram, and an unparalleled reputation, LV was the ultimate symbol of luxury. From the most exclusive handbags to custom luggage, Louis Vuitton screamed sophistication. But here's the plot twist. The ultra-wealthy are starting to look elsewhere. Why? The answer is simple. Louis Vuitton has become too available. The brand's aggressive expansion into every market has made its once rare items ubiquitous. Today, you can find Louis Vuitton bags in every major city, every major shopping mall, and every influencer's feed. The very same exclusivity that made LV a status symbol now feels like it's been watered down by sheer volume. Additionally, Louis Vuitton's partnership with celebrities, social media influencers, and lifestyle collaborations created a double-edged sword. Yes, it brought in an entirely new wave of customers, but it also turned Louis Vuitton from a symbol of refined wealth into a flashy flex. The ultra-wealthy are increasingly seeking something that feels more intimate, more exclusive, and quieter, not something stamped with logos and plastered across Instagram feeds. While Louis Vuitton still dominates the luxury market, it's no longer the go-to choice for those who want subtlety, sophistication, and true exclusivity. What was once the epitome of elite taste now feels too mainstream for many of the wealthiest shoppers. When luxury becomes too easily attainable, it stops being luxury. Louis Vuitton may still rule the billboards, but in the quiet corners of true luxury, the brand has lost some of its old sparkle. The next name on our list took an even harder hit. Once the gold standard of Italian opulence, it leaned too hard into glitz and ended up turning off the very people who could actually afford it. Number 2. Versace. Few brands have embodied drama like Versace. The Medusa logo, the gold chains, the vivid prints. Versace was never meant to whisper. It was designed to roar. In the 80s and 90s, that worked perfectly. It was excess personified, beautiful, loud, and expensive. But fast forward to today, and that same energy feels out of sync with the new wealthy mindset. Modern high net worth buyers are rejecting the bling era that Versace helped define. They're moving toward subtle luxury, the kind that doesn't need to sparkle under 10 chandeliers to prove its worth. Versace's bold aesthetic, once revolutionary, now feels more costume than couture to many of the elite. Then came the mass market problem. The brand's diffusion lines, collaborations, and constant celebrity endorsements blurred the boundaries between luxury and pop culture. What used to be exclusive now feels overexposed. You can find a Versace logo on everything from hotel robes to sneakers, and that omnipresence makes it hard for the brand to feel rare. It's not that Versace isn't successful, it's still globally recognized and profitable, but among the ultra-rich, it's lost its quiet authority. What was once a symbol of bold, unapologetic luxury is now shorthand for flashy, aspirational. The middle class still loves it, influencers still flaunt it, but the elite, they've traded the gold Medusa for muted tones and minimal logos. In the modern luxury hierarchy, loud is out, and Versace hasn't quite learned how to turn down the volume. Versace's downfall proves that luxury can't survive on noise alone. But the brand at number 1? It didn't just lose the elite, it practically gave them away. What was once the crown jewel of timeless luxury is now one of the most overexposed names in fashion. For decades, it defined class and aspiration. Today, it's become the logo of the masses. Number 1. Chanel. For generations, Chanel was the holy grail of fashion. The quilted handbags, the tweed suits, the double C, all symbols of grace, legacy, and wealth that didn't need validation. Owning Chanel meant you were part of a very exclusive club, but in the last few years, something shifted. That exclusivity has been slipping, not because Chanel changed its craftsmanship, but because it changed its reach. The brand's expansion strategy and relentless price hikes turned Chanel into a paradox. On one hand, its products became more expensive than ever, handbags now rivaling the cost of small cars. On the other, that price inflation made the brand feel less luxurious to those who can actually afford it. When a logo becomes a trend, not a statement, the ultra-rich start walking away. And walk away they have. The discreet wealthy. The ones who buy Hermes or Bottega because they don't scream status. Now see Chanel as mainstream. Its bags are everywhere, from influencer halls to airport lounges. The exclusivity that once defined it has turned into visibility, and in luxury, visibility is death. Chanel still commands desire among aspirational buyers. It's the dream purchase for millions. But that's precisely the problem. For the true elite, Chanel no longer represents rarefied elegance. It represents accessibility disguised as aspiration. Chanel hasn't lost its beauty, it's lost its mystery. And in luxury, mystery is everything. So, what does this list really tell us? That luxury isn't just about price tags or logos, it's about perception. What the middle class sees as making it, the ultra-rich often see as moving on. Because in the world of real wealth, the goal isn't to show you have money, it's to make everyone wonder if you do. Luxury has become louder, more crowded, and a lot more performative, but true status has gone silent. The brands at the top of this list didn't collapse because they lost their craftsmanship. They fell because they lost their mystery. And in luxury, once everyone can have it, no one wants it anymore. The irony? These brands are still thriving. They're just thriving with a different audience. The dreamers, the up-and-comers, the middle class that still wants a taste of the high life. The rich may have moved on, but the rest of the world is still catching up. Because that's the funny thing about luxury. It's not about what's rare. It's about what feels rare. And feelings, just like fashion, are always changing. So if you liked this deep dive into the secret life of luxury, stick around, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment on which brand surprised you most, and don't forget to like this video. See you in the next one.